Welcome back to Visited by Voices Live. It's been a moment since I've had a show with a guest, but I am very proud today to welcome back, sort of, to Visited by Voices Live, Dan from Flesh Wound Radio. How are you, sir? Oh, you are still very muted. There you go.
Muted. I am still doing fantastic, and I'm honored to be the first guest of 2021, the year of hope.
Well, you know what? It gets to be the year of hope until it's not, right?
Yes. I'm just like, just let me go back to movies and not live in constant dread. I don't have high expectations. Just give me movie theaters and not dying. That's all I ask for.
The pendulum can keep swinging just to get closer to our chests, please. Thank you.
Yes, that's all. Yeah, I'm not expecting a miracle.
Yeah, well, you know what? Miracles are the bare beginning of what we need to get back on track. But,
yes,
before we started the show today, we were talking a little bit about the fact that for all the downside of 2020, the genre did really well. And that's what I'm really excited to talk to you at first about, but I want to get something first. But I want to let people know that, like, this, if you're expecting a real downer episode talking about how last year was awful, well, in our personal lives, that might be true, but in the genre, I think we're going to have something else to discuss entirely. Dan, one of the things I think that's amazing about you is that you are one of the voices that is out there in the community that is really robust with what you love about the genre. Too often, I'm sort of disappointed when we keep going back to the same Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, 1980s, well, time and time again. Everyone knows that, very public about the fact that I'm frustrated with that. But you and I come together, we're just as likely to rap about something from the late 40s or how rock music has informed, and grew up with the horror film as we are any of those soft spots that you constantly hear from. So I want to let you know that I really think that you bring a lot to the table. And, hey, you feel like a brother in arms in this thing.
Well, thank you. Yes, we do talk a little bit too much about, I don't want to say the past, because a lot of things are new in the past for people. But the big franchises, I love them, but I don't care that much. There's more to it. 2020, I think, was one of the best years quality-wise ever in horror. That's how I feel about 2020 in terms of horror.
I'd say since the year 2000, at least. I think it would be hard to make a argument that it wasn't the best year.
Yeah.
You can point out individual films during that period that might have been better, although even that might be a stretch. But no, I think for a year to consistently put out as much great independent, foreign, and even studio films, I think we got something real special on our hands, and it came in a dark time when we needed it the most. The genre was there for us.
Yeah, our producer Todd, I can't remember the exact number, but he had, and he's in California, so I mean, been locked down hard. He had 1,100 plus new movie watches this year. That's not just horror, but so a lot of good stuff.
Give us the time and the means, right?
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, and we've had horror from all across the globe this year that has just been amazing. I mean, whatever you like, you got it. If you like slashers, if you like zombie movies, #alive. Who thought we would have such a great zombie movie at this point with how zombies are played out from South Korea? It's there for you. It really is. So I don't know. Maybe we can educate you tonight on some stuff you need to be checking out.
Well, let's start with a little bit of education back. I'm sure you've told the story a million times on Flesh Wound and your own private channels, but so how did it start for you? Well,
horror goes back to some of my earliest memories. I mean, 4 years old, maybe. I have, I probably barely knew how to walk, but I can remember Vincent Price, the Night of the Living Dead. Not original run. I'm not as old as I look with this beard, but horror was always something that fascinated me. I can remember sitting in front of the TV and just falling in love. And I was a weird kid, like I think quite a few of us were. And, I went to Catholic school, probably always had a sense of the Gothic for that reason, churches. And what really got me, because at that time, it's all real to you. And I saw Hellraiser, which was such a powerful experience because it's like, all right, hell's real at that time in my head. So it's like, oh Jesus, is this what it's really like? I am not gonna stay up late to watch real sex anymore. I'm just gonna I'm gonna be good because I don't want the Cenobites coming for me. So yeah, it was just Clive Barker was big in literature and film for me early on, and Cronenberg.
I suppose the books of blood in particular.
Oh yes, definitely. I think I actually read that was actually I think my first Clive Barker read, and it's hard to remember, but I think I read that before Hellbound Heart actually.
Yeah, I remember when Damnation Game came out, being like, I want the short stories back.
Yeah,
because he's already gone very fantasy.
yeah, he did.
It's a horror novel, but it's a very fanciful horror novel. So if you're out there, Clive, come back. We miss you. Not just the name. Come back completely. We miss you.
I saw him at Days of the Dead. I can't say he looked good, but he was very fun to talk to. He is missed, but I think there's a little bit of a boom coming for him right now. I mean, Books of Blood was on Hulu, not perfect, but I know there's a lot of movement with new Hellraiser stuff, and hopefully though some new stories too. I know he's writing a new novel.
It's his Hellraiser's his again, so
yeah,
we don't have to look at that long legacy of in name only bad schlock. So hopefully, unless it's his schlock, but
you never know.
Then I'd prefer it.
Absolutely. No, he I think early on, I mean, yes, I love the slashers, I love Jason, all that good stuff, but it made me, because I did not obviously understand all the themes in Hellraiser when I saw it when I was a kid, but I knew, I was like, this is something a little bit more than just a guy in a mask chopping people up. It really connected with me. It scared the hell out of me at the time, no pun intended. I mean, it was just, it disturbed me, but I knew I had to see more. And I think that one really strapped a rocket to me in terms of my love for horror films.
And again, going back to my introduction of you, I love the fact that you didn't stop with just, hey, this is the movie I saw on cable one night, and that's what for you it was literature and it was movies, and I suppose there was a first theater experience probably in there. There's probably some radio drama somewhere at some point, a comic book. It's all there, right?
Pretty much. I was not a big comic guy, but I just devoured horror. I was never the most tech inclined guy, but the first thing I remember doing on the internet was like IMDb, and I was like, okay, so these are zombie films I need to see. These are slasher films. I had a taste for older films because my parents, not horror people at all, but I do remember watching Vincent Price. I remember watching a little bit later, but Christopher Lee and Hammer Horror, and just wherever I could get information on things, whether it's through books or talking to people, as we used to do in the video store days. Sunburst Video was my ma and pop, and there were two ladies that worked there who loved horror movies. So young Dan would walk up to the counter, and I learned a lot just from them, just from talking to somebody face to face rather than a screen where you gotta just scroll through these. I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna connect. I worry about the next generation of horror fans, because you're not gonna have that person to person interaction. And we traveled a lot too, so it didn't matter where we were. I would go to Disney World. I was like, what video stores are around Disney World? And I'd go to every one I could. And yeah, I just devoured it any way I could.
I remember my first hour on the internet ever. The first thing I did was just kind of like troll, like just to see message boards devoted to horror. And I remember reading, these people know who Umberto Lenzi is. I mean, it was like, I didn't have anyone in my life that I could talk to that deep into the genre. There's people I could talk about the big stuff, but not niche horror was like completely. And then I remember like things like, oh my God, there's a copy of Edison's Frankenstein floating around. That's not supposed to exist, but yet there it is. And within the, Raimi's Within the Woods it's a real thing. It's not a legend. It exists barely, but it exists.
Yeah. Did you ever have a film you knew about and you were so obsessed with, but you couldn't see it? You just couldn't find it. Is there one for you that just drove you nuts?
It is really spooky that you just asked that question.
Oh, really?
Because it's not exactly what you're asking, but it's so similar that I have to answer it this way. As a kid, I saw a movie which I swore was called Island of Blood. And that led me to a film called Island of Death from Greece, which I thought was it. Very different film. I love that film. It's messed up beyond belief, but it's not the right movie. Island of Blood became this kind of like, it was a slasher, and I remember it being, even as a young man when I saw it, with about around 83. I remember it being bad, but I liked it, which is okay, guys. Don't think that I'm so snobbish I can't like things I know and recognize are bad. And you know what happened just recently? Our friends at Vinegar Syndrome put it out under the title Whodunit.
There you go. Have you gotten to sit down and watch it yet? Or
I have. They remastered it. It's a 4K remaster on a Blu-ray disc, so it's still 1080. It's not, true UHD presentation, but oh my god! And I can't. I mean, I'm going to do a review on the channel probably of it, but I can't honestly say it's a better film than I remember it being, because it's pretty shoddy.
Sure.
But for years, I almost believed that I had invented it from all the other slasher films that I'd seen at that time.
Yeah, that's possible.
But sure enough, it does really exist.
Yeah. Even, I mean, I know a lot about horror, but even to this day, there'll be some image in my head from forever ago. And I was like, God damn it, which one was that? And it's like an itch you can't scratch.
Yeah. There's a site called Kinder Trauma.
Oh, really?
All Kinder Trauma does is things that people cannot place from their childhood but disturb them. They can write in, and the community searches that thing down for them.
Oh, wow.
It's all they do. I mean, that's not all they do. They just post about other things, but that's the main thing they do. Unfortunately, my Kinder Trauma was not found, but I have memories. It's probably around 1980. Something made for television. It was very short. I want to think it was 10 minutes, maybe long. Involved a teacher who cut up the American flag because it was one of the kids' birthdays, and was handing out stars. And the one girl got a piece of the flag, and she was really disappointed because she didn't get whatever she wanted. And it was some kind of a social, metaphor, but I can't even place what that metaphor is today because I don't have any of the container in place. But I remember that really bothered me. Because I think it was shot very much utilitarian, kind of like an industrial film, like very plain. And at that time, I think the only place we got that kind of filmmaking was on the news. So,
yeah.
So if anyone out there knows it,
help us out. Yes, absolutely. I don't have, well, at least until I started doing podcasting, I didn't have anybody that was like as into horror as I was in my life. So I'd get a lot of casual people like, oh, there's this horror movie, maybe you can help me out. And it'll be like, it's this, well, it'll be like, it's this guy in a mask and he's hunting down these high schoolers. And I'm like, can you give me something else? Because I'm not, there's a lot of that.
How would you like the list? Alphabetical or by year of release?
Yeah. I'm like, do you have an actor? Do you have... And I'm like, oh, I'm always letting people down.
Well, I think Al has provided it as the proper jump off spot to what we had talked about before the episode. So his comment is, horror will never be the same. 70s, 80s are gone.
I disagree. We won't, every decade has its own unique feel, obviously. I mean, the world certainly has changed a lot just in the last decade. But you could say that about any decade. I mean, it won't be the same, but that doesn't mean it can't be better. You could make a strong case, and I know this is not popular at all to say, but overall, post 90s, you could say it overall, maybe even better than the 80s, the horror genre. That might be controversial, and obviously, there are some of the best horror movies ever made in the 80s, but I think in terms of quality, we get more quality horror films now than we ever have in terms of volume. Again, I know several of my favorite horror films are in the 80s, so all time, but really dig. You have to dig now. It's not as easy as just, we see everything. It's in the theater. Last 20 years or so, you have to dig for the good stuff, unfortunately, but it's there.
Do you have a favorite decade for horror?
I don't. I actually don't. It's too hard for me to pick because I think the 70s for cinema in general was a hell of a decade, but no, I really can't pick. And I mean, you go back too far, of course, there's so many great horror films that are lost to time. So it's hard to, go back to the beginning, as it were. But I don't think the genre has ever died. Even the 90s, where things were a little more sparse, there are gems there. People forget Cemetery Man. People forget, a lot of great horror films came out in the 90s. I was frustrated with the Scream wave, like a lot of people, but our genre is strong. It's not going anywhere. Technology will change, physical media, will change, but the genre is not going anywhere. I feel like that's one thing I'm pretty upbeat about. I don't know what the future holds, but horror will keep going strong. And 2020, guys, like, it's a big list of quality films. They're not all classics, but there were some really fun movies. Yummy was one that I thought was a blast. Not a classic movie, but it was a lot of fun. Anything for Jackson, watched that recently on Shudder. Very unique possession story, which again I didn't think would even be possible these days with a possession storyline. I mean, my God. May the Devil Take You 2, which is one awesome. I know you championed on this show. If you like the really bizarre character studies, Rent-A-Pal, Brian Fulkins channels Joe Spinell. So if you're like a maniac guy, it's not as gory, but disturbing character studies, that was quite good as well. So yeah, have hope, guys. It's not bleak right now.
Nah, when I was putting together my top 10, I struggled a little bit, not because I was trying to find titles, but figuring out what got knocked off the top 10. I mean, I probably easily could have put a top 25 together and been pretty happy with it. But my top 3, I keep saying this, you could put those in any order, and I probably would look at you and say, yeah, that's fine. Because that we had some, like, the strengths were just unbelievable. And I think we had a lot more consistency this year because with everything shut down, the independents and the foreign got a lot more voice than ever before. And, they took the studios out behind the schoolyard and gave them the whipping they deserved. That's how I felt this year went.
Oh, absolutely. Do you think that'll continue? Like, once things, hopefully by summer, are back to something resembling normal, will we keep getting the relics in theaters and kicking ass?
I don't know. I feel like if the studios rush back to just business as usual, then yes, because I do think like a lot of smaller theaters realized that when things got tough, these independent distributors came through enough to keep them afloat. There is going to be a debt to be repaid there.
Yeah.
And frankly, chasing the old money doesn't make any sense for those guys. But if the studios just try and market as another an 8th part of this series and a 12th part of that series, yeah, I think the independents and the foreign stuff is going to continue to have a big influence on the genre because I think fans are hungry for it. And I think with Shudder and even Netflix, for instance, most Indonesian companies have a big in with Netflix. So that gives them a pipeline. A lot of independents in America and Britain can go right through Shudder pretty much without any obstacle to get to their intended audience. Any other year, I bet if we put up both of our top 10 lists, while they wouldn't be identical, there'd be enough titles that you realize that in any other year, they would have been really tough to find some of those, if you did at all.
Oh, absolutely.
But now, no.
I might rank something 12th that could have been number 1 in a certain year. That's how good it was.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. Something like Blood Vessel came out this year. And, to me, that was the film that turned around 30 years of vampires going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Everyone says, well, the Twilight thing. The Twilight thing started when we started with, honestly, I know controversial, but when we started making the Lost Boys thing, whereas, they're evil, but they're really cool. That's the Twilight thing.
Yeah.
And it's how it began. It got watered down to Twilight. But to me, like something like Blood Vessel, where, hey, no, vampires are monsters. And they're not substitute zombies or anything. No, they're their own monsters. I loved seeing that back. Any other year, that movie would have been so far under the radar, no one would have seen it. This year, I saw it make some lists.
It did. I was very impressed with it. For me, modern vampire movies are usually a little more miss than hit, but that one, I was like, wow, that was really good. I mean, there's some other, like, even on television, The Strain, a little more savage vampires from the Guillermo del Toro novels. There's so much frustration, and again, name something and you can give an example of a really great movie. It is out there. You're still going to have the horrible Twilight style things, and you'll get your Black Christmas 2019s and your freakies, but which was on some best of lists. I was the lone on our show that didn't like it, but
well, then you're the sane one. No, I'm kidding. I respect everyone's opinion, but man, that movie pissed me off from beginning to end. I could not believe how lazy and offensively condescending that movie was.
Yeah, I think the first line was something about, I can't remember the exact line, but something about like how stupid straight white males are, and I was like, okay, well, they're not marketing towards me, so
it's etched into my brain as scar tissue. It's the line is never underestimate the violence an old white man is capable of.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah. So it was just, I don't know. I will say it's not nearly as bad as I think there were some good kills in it. I guess that's the only thing I could say at the beginning. But Black Christmas, I don't know if you've watched that. I haven't
seen it.
That is next level bad. Imagine like,
what do those movies have in common?
Yes.
Yeah. The fall of the great ones. I don't mean that in a Lovecraftian way.
No.
So the problem is, I think, when you have a company that's devoted to genre fare today, they don't go outside the box. I mean, Blum used to. I mean, Purge series is way out of the box if you think about it. Those are action films, basically. But unfortunately now it's like, Halloween made lots of money. What can we do? And this is where we are. But I think in days gone by, you would have gotten your Escape from New York's next to your Hell Up in Harlem next to your Two-Lane Blacktops. And I think that's better for exploitation cinema than what we get from a Blumhouse or a Ghost House Pictures or Sony Screen Gems or whatever have you.
Yeah. Yeah, they've lost the ability to, I mean, you can get whatever political message you want across in a great film. I mean, look at Romero. Now it's just these obnoxious, like, just hitting you with the hammer practically, which Black Christmas, it'll be a painful experience, but it'll probably be a good review for you if you ever want to subject yourself to it.
Well, the reviews where I rail against something do get the most watches of the reviews. So
yeah.
But I almost don't want to do that, only because I'd rather find something that I love and try and spread word about it. That said, and this I think is something you'll share with me too, I am dead opposed to us only talking about things we like, or worse, not taking a stand when we dislike something. So in other words, like, some people will say, oh, well, this isn't my thing. Some people are going to like it. So clearly it has its audience. It's not me. Well, you know what? That's all true. It's all legitimate, but it's okay not to like it and just voice why.
Sure.
I think those are good conversations for the community.
And there's a lot of diverse opinions. Like I said, I didn't see anything in Freaky, but it is on some best of the year lists, and I love having those discussions. I sincerely hope we're doing our best of show here soon, and I have no idea what's going to crack the list for the other guys, but I hope we're not like exactly the same, because that's what makes discussion fun. We reviewed a film that just came out last night called Shadow in the Cloud with Chloe Grace, and
It's set in World War II.
it is set in World War II.
I've read something about it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it starts off Twilight Zone and becomes something very, very different. Chloe Grace basically being John McClane. So it's if you like it, I thought it was dumb, but I thought it was fun at the same time. So, even something like that, like I recognize it's bad, but I had a good time with it. It was so stupid, but I had a good time with it.
I have a couple theaters near me playing it. Not super close, but I try and see everything that comes out in the genre in theaters if I can.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was a Chinese action film that I wanted to see too much this week, so that ended up getting my money instead. But
oh, really? What was that?
It was called Shockwave 2.
Oh, I think I have the first one. I haven't watched it though.
It's, despite the title, it is not a sequel to the first film.
Oh, okay.
Similar like concepts, but no characters are the same. No, the situation is completely. I really liked it. If you like that kind of early '90s super big Hong Kong action films, not martial arts films, more like your police drama shoot 'em ups. There's some really great stuff. Yeah, there's some CGI that's not perfect by any means, but hey, better than anything in Wonder Woman 84. Sorry, Al.
I haven't seen it yet. I don't have an opinion. I did hear that there was a debate over a consent thing in that, though, that a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah, it definitely gets a little rapey.
Yeah, which I wouldn't expect from Wonder Woman 84.
It's not where you immediately assume the content's going to go, but you know what? I even wouldn't want. Listen, I'm not precious about superheroes at all. If they wanted to make that movie, cool, lean into it, make that movie. It's that it clearly never occurred to them that anyone would have a problem with it. It was, oh, Wonder Woman, okay, cool. Like, she does this, isn't it great? She's back with the love of her life. But I don't know. That's the least of my problems with the movie. Honestly, that is a problem, but it's really long and it's not very good. Sorry, Al.
I don't quite get at what point it became that we have to have 2.5 hour superhero movies. You can do a 90-minute superhero movie. I mean, it's not, to me, I'm not an expert on superheroes, but not that deep. I mean,
I'm a big proponent of keeping movies under 2 hours. I am. And there's not to say that it can't be done, whereas I don't, I can like the end result. Empty Man, one of my favorite films of the year, 2 hours, 17 minutes. And I didn't feel it at all. I mean, if you had asked me how long that movie, I'd probably around 2. I would never have guessed that it had another entire quarter. Oh. But in general, I think better writing happens when there's an economy involved, when they realize that they got to get it in 90, 95 minutes. I think that's the sweet spot, especially for genre.
Yeah, there's Korean films. It all tend to be a lot longer.
Well, that's very true. I don't think, though, length is necessarily what's the biggest problem at the moment. It's just that, man, can we just have fun with our movies and leave all of the other nonsense from life behind?
Yeah.
I get it's not a problem with Wonder Woman 84, which is not at all a political film. I mean, maybe on the most easy level to skim off the top possible, but there's nothing deeply political about that movie or even social. But I just get to the point where it's like, if you're going to do a message film, do a message film, but do the writing, do the work, make me feel what a character feels so that message has impact. Don't just slogans here, which is, again, the freaky thing. Every slogan that they could have thrown into a film as dialogue, they did. So, I mean, that's going to be the big struggle in the next few years, I think, in the genre, is there's going to continue to be message movies. And I feel that it's likely many of them will not be well written. I hope they're better written and we can get both sides, but
well, we just mentioned Shadow in the Cloud, and every male character except for one is basically Harvey Weinstein, which is ironic because I think Max Landis was initially the screenwriter on that movie, so that might explain something, or that was the reaction to Max Landis. I don't know.
Say what you will about Max Landis, but at least he didn't make Twilight Zone the movie.
Yeah, didn't. You know, kinder to his cast, I suppose.
I just, I just want to get to the point where, as we build a community online, which is exactly what you and I are trying desperately to do, can't the movies help us out, throw us a bone by not being divisive to begin with? Doesn't mean you can't have a message, but write it well enough. I mean, you don't have to agree with Dawn of the Dead, right? You don't have to believe that consumerism is bad at the same time as you buy a $120 box set edition of that movie. So you don't have to buy into the message, but during the runtime, you should be convinced by how well written and presented it is.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Dawn of the Dead. When I saw that as a kid, I didn't get that it was about consumerism. It was just a great horror movie. If I had seen Black Christmas 2019 when I was, teenager or whatever, I'd know exactly that they're just hammering in a message. It's night and day. But that's not to say there aren't films that do it right, because there certainly are. But I think for all the bad that we get, there's more good. There really is.
Absolutely.
My list of terrible movies this year is not that big. Even some stuff like Becky, which was totally ridiculous, was still fun. Unhinged, again, totally ridiculous, but fun.
I thought Unhinged was exactly okay. Here's Unhinged for me, and I saw it in theaters, like many, because it's one of those films that did well in theaters for this year. Here's my thing about Unhinged: when you go and buy a ticket to, say, a Liam Neeson film, you know what you're getting, right? And they give you exactly that movie. When you go to buy a ticket to see, Russell, in a road rage movie, they delivered what they promised. There's no lying in that film. Now, is it grand entertainment? Do I need to revisit it anytime soon? No. But I had fun in the theaters. And I actually thought that when it went really ridiculous in its final act, I was okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was going to say a 90-pound woman taking on, now, Fat Gladiator, I guess.
It doesn't matter. That's always been one of my big pet peeves in the modern, the modern film, whereas they'll have a open fight between a 90-pound woman and a 300-pound behemoth man. And it's like, you do realize one punch in that fight is over, right? In the real world, because physics work.
Yeah.
It's just, that's the way. And training is only going to take you so far. Again, one blow and it's over. And I just wish the films would get smart about that. So that behemoth man is probably pretty dumb. In most of these screenplays, they are. Make that how he's defeated. The woman is just smarter.
Yeah.
Don't somehow give her the ability to knock him across the room, because that just insults me.
Did you see Becky?
I did not.
Oh, okay. It's no spoiler, but there's a scene where Kevin James, who is a huge dude, is fighting this 12-year-old girl. And he, even at one point, he picks her up and power bombs her to the ground, and she still gets up.
No, her vertebrae are powder at that point.
Yes. But like I said, that movie was so silly. It was just fun. I didn't have any issues with it. I mean, again, towards the end, I was like, maybe don't have the 350-pound man ragdoll her to the ground like that. But, that was a good time. In a year where if Becky's, the
worst thing that came out.
Yeah. Which I gave it a fairly positive review, but it's pretty good. It really is. There were maybe a handful of films that I would say were awful this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't make a worst film of the year list. People ask for that, and I don't want to spend time looking back on anything I didn't enjoy. It just seems really counterproductive.
Yeah.
I don't mind talking about a film. If someone brings something up that I didn't enjoy, fine. But
Hmm.
I don't know if I want to, I don't know, spend a lot of time looking back in the bad stuff. And especially in a year like you're saying, I think I could easily come up with 25 titles that I really like this year. So why wouldn't I spend my energy there?
Oh yeah, Mortuary Collection, great anthology movie.
Oh,
One week story, but overall great anthology movie. Clancy Brown, wow.
Miss Jamie promotes that as something she enjoyed quite a lot. It's on my
Okay.
list. I have not gotten to that, and that's the other thing. It's the embarrassment of riches that I haven't got to everything that people I trust, people I respect, say is great. Well, that's a good year. Because if
Oh
this
yeah.
year is still awful, I have enough carryover to take me halfway through the new year.
No, definitely, definitely. I know you're not a big TV guy from what I've seen on your show, but there's a lot of great horror stuff in television now too. I mean, Hannibal. I mean, my God, that was I can't believe what they got away with on Hannibal. There's so many avenues, and I know a lot of people don't read anymore, but there's a lot of great horror books out there. I even slacked. I think you go through college and sometimes you're just not reading as much because you're, cramming all this other stuff into your head. And I've been reading a lot more now during the pandemic because, again, not going out much. So uh, get your horror however you can get it. There's tons of different ways. On the literature front, I can't believe because I have a lot of people that I know that are into extreme horror, and I'll and that complain about not getting enough extreme horror, and I'm like, have you heard of Edward Lee, Wrath, James White, Monica O'Rourke? You will not see that in a movie, I promise. Check out those.
Well, not legally anyway.
No, no.
No. Wrath is in particular. My God, he even like his stuff with his son is just unbelievably good, and as raw a nerve as you could touch.
So, oh
yeah. There's a lot of great. Okay, so in horror literature, it's such a diverse field. There's so much. I hate this word, but I'm going to use it. Talent, and yet we don't utilize these people. They do not get translated to screen very often.
Oh.
So is that a frustration for you? Do you read a book and say, wow, this is perfect for a screen adaptation. This would be a big hit with horror fans as I know them. And yet it never comes. It never happens.
No, it feels like it's always got to be Stephen King or, Dean Koontz, I guess. Although I don't think he's had an adaptation in a while. But I don't know if that's changing slowly. I can't imagine The Only Good Indian is not going to get a film adaptation.
I so hope.
Yeah, I look at that. I've had a busy week, so I haven't finished it. But The Ancestor, Danielle Trusani, which I know you've
best book of the year.
Yeah, I reading that, it's like I see the movie. I can see it. I know Gothic. I don't know if it's going to be like a $100 million smash hit, but maybe it doesn't need to be anymore. I mean, it's a very compelling story. I already have actors in my head.
If A24 announced it, you wouldn't blink.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's possible. I hope they come back to that because, again, I don't know why a lot of even authors that are not new by any means that have had no adaptations or maybe one or two. I was going to say Dan Simmons, but he's the Terror. But
but that broke my heart because I did watch. I didn't finish it because it was moving too fast. The book is 1,000 pages, and it needs that for its story. And the adaptation it was streaming along way too fast. I wasn't able to enjoy that world. I never felt the isolation that I felt in the book.
I haven't read the book, and I need to. It's that period where
did you like the series?
I did enjoy it. Yeah, I haven't finished season 2, which I guess is not based on anything. Yeah,
you will love the novel.
Okay,
I mean it's epistolary mostly. So that takes a little bit of getting used to because it's all in the proper language of the time period. So I'm not going to say it's a super easy read, though. Simmons has done harder reads because he's gone into dialects than that. So I would love to see more Dan Simmons. He might be problematic because his political views have made him kind of a pariah.
Yeah.
But it's sad that's true, because I think that shouldn't affect the work.
Oh, I don't care what anybody believes. Just give me good material. I don't care what you do in your private life or talk about and think. That's people got to get over that now. I find that somebody's trying to get canceled, and I don't care. A great mind's a great mind. If you tell me a great horror story, hey, I don't care who you vote for. I don't know. A lot of people do, though, unfortunately. That's I don't know anything about Dan Simmons' politics until you just said that just now. So,
If you Google it, there's more than enough to read. But
yeah.
and whatever, as I've said a million times, I'm a libertarian, so I have no brothers in this fight.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let Al Suspiria have his piece. So I'm just going to shut up for 5 minutes exactly and let you handle this, okay? Because I'm not going to say a word about it afterwards either. Ready?
Oh, okay, sure. Dan, compare the original Suspiria versus 2018 Suspiria, differences and the horror. I love them both. I prefer the original, but I've seen you on different streams, Al, and I did notice initially everybody, of course, like any remake, they crapped on 2018, and now I know of a few. Believe it or not, you're not alone. Pugs Dread, who is on our show, does not care that much for the original Suspiria. Again, unpopular viewpoint, which makes Pugs so fascinating to work with, and he prefers the new one. So you're not alone. People. And one thing that I hate, and I've noticed this with a lot of different people, they feel they have to feel a certain way about a certain film. And, there were so many people shitting on that new one when it came out, which I have some issues with, but I do enjoy it. And I was like, well, who cares? If you're the only person that likes it, who cares? You see something in it, even something like Freaky, which I shit on quite horribly. There are people that like it. Their opinions are no more valuable than mine. And I'm glad. I'm glad we have diverse fandom out there. But yes, the original's a masterpiece. The new one's good, I guess, in short. It's been a little while since I've watched the new one, so I can't dissect it specifically versus the original. But yeah, Tilda Swinton, man, like if nothing else, she's always great. What an actress. Yeah, it's about all I got.
Okay. And I think that diversity is what's really put. I mean, listen, you're not going to find anyone else anytime recently that's going to have a Slipping into Darkness poster on the wall. Okay.
Yes.
I fully understand that the film is an acquired taste, and a lot of people are not going to like the taste of it.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it's so where I live, you know?
Yeah.
So we pick on Al, definitely pick on Al, but the thing is, it's like, I think it's not so much the opinion, it's that I think we've all spoken our piece on Suspiria 2018.
Yeah, your debates on that one have always been funny. I've watched because I found like you during this whole pandemic. So then Jay the Stingray and all the people connected, Region Free family. So
you found Region Free through me, not vice versa?
I believe I found your podcast, and of course, different people were on. I've been aware of Pizzal, of course, for a long time, and then kind of started connecting different podcasts. I've just discovered there's nothing but time. So yeah,
that's interesting. I think you're one of the few that went that path.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you exactly. I mean, you came up as a recommendation or something. Because I probably clicked on some review and there you go. Yeah.
Well, and that probably makes more sense that you would find me than a lot of people, because again, it was probably I did something off the wall, like a Barbara Steele film from the 60s or something.
Oh yeah.
And the chance of you finding that is probably a lot better than a lot of the community. So that makes some sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you get to meet Barbara Steele? I can't remember. I know we talked about her.
It's my big. It's like my biggest get at this point is to meet, and I don't really even care. I'm not saying I wouldn't get a signature. I don't even care about that. I don't care about a photograph with me. I don't care about a signature. I just really want to tell her that I consider her in the pantheon. I'll put her beside Lugosi or Karloff or Lee or anyone. To me, she's as important, and she is not a screen queen. I'm sorry, I'm fighting with a cat at the same time I'm trying to talk.
Oh, that's okay. Mine are running around.
That's the European cat, so she's bad. No, I my feelings for Barbara Steele are overwhelming almost to me, because I know that all of us have a finite time. And I've gotten spoiled to the idea of being able to meet the people who've meant something to me. And she's the big one. I would say she, to me, is the biggest one at this point.
I got to meet her at Chiller Theater. She's very funny. I mean, I didn't have like some long conversation with her, but I got to talk to her a little. She was in, I believe she was in the Italian Invasion Room. I think Mike Baronis, a friend of mine, might have actually been her agent. I can't remember, but yeah, funny. She was just sitting there reading a newspaper. And I think the first thing when I came up to her was like, oh, I knew somebody would come to meet me eventually. And of course, I don't know who the big celeb was that year, but there's massive lines.
And the Walking Dead people or something.
Probably. I was going to say that might have been like a Norman Reedus here where it was around the building. But yeah, and I couldn't believe. I mean, she had steady traffic, but I was like, man, this is a legend. Black Sunday is probably my favorite Gothic horror film. Not probably, it is my favorite Gothic horror film. But nobody's beating her.
Let's see where it lands on my list of all time. Number 12.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that
number 12 film of all time. So yeah.
Oh, film. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. And if you ask me on a different day, it probably is higher. I mean, right now it's just below Hereditary.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember seeing, I can't remember when. I was fairly young, but I remember seeing it and just thinking like, man, the mood. I just, to this day, I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not doing anything else. I turn the lights down. I watch Black Sunday. I do that every Halloween, often Halloween night.
You know what? I do it once a year too, but not on Halloween. I do it the Sunday after Thanksgiving.
Oh,
it's Black Sunday.
Makes sense, yeah.
And I actually tweeted this out this year, that asking if anyone was going to do it, and like, I got so many private messages saying no, but I think you just started a tradition. I'm like, when? That is, Bava at his height was as powerful as Luton or Cedarwick or anyone who influenced this genre. Whale, anyone really. I mean, at his height, Bava was the best we've ever had. And I would say that Black Sunday is the height. Yeah.
You can make a case. Greatest horror director. It's a hard thing for me to pick, but yeah, he has to be on that conversation. People say Hitchcock, but not really horror. Yeah, not really horror. More, so I mean, I think he's one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. But yeah, in terms of horror, Bava's hard to touch. I mean, Argento.
Listen, no one talks about Lisa and the Devil, but my God, that movie, that movie doesn't get discussed. That rocks. Black Sabbath may be in the top 5 anthology films of all time.
Oh, the Karloff story. Wow, that's another one.
Unbelievable. You see, and that's the thing. Like, people know who Bava is. But when you talk to horror fans, unfortunately, you don't get that passion. Yeah, normally from people. And I hope it's not a generational thing, because if it is, that means that our generation, and I'm using that's a pretty wide net, I realize, but our generation will be the last to have that kind of connection with anything from the black and white era or earlier. And I don't want to see that happen.
I hope it doesn't. I mean, ADD is a big thing, and not being able to put the phone down, which, and I'm not preaching. Sometimes it's hard. It's a digital world. I look at my phone way more than I care to sometimes, but I think anybody, like when you watch a movie, shut out or especially a book. I couldn't even imagine doing multitasking while reading, but turn the lights down and focus on it and let it take you, because the films, well, I mean 1960 for Black Sunday, but those golden era films, there's not going to be anything like that again. You can't recreate it. You can try, you can remake Cabinet of Dr. Caligari or Nosferatu, but it's not going to feel the same. It won't. And that atmosphere, that mood, I don't know. I think people could get into it if they tried, if they'd commit to it. I know Bride of Frankenstein's your number one, if I'm not mistaken. And,
absolutely.
yeah. I'm sure we're going to get a big action reboot of that at some point, but you're not going to recreate that.
2022.
Yeah.
My question there is that why? When you could just create your own thing, if you have to put a spin on something that already exists, make your own thing. It's better for everyone. I mean, if it ends up being a big hit. So the problem is, like, let's say Gus Van Sant made a legitimate remake of Psycho that wasn't just a carbon copy, right? Mm-hmm. Which is weird because he hewed too closely, so it's not legitimate, which is true. But say he made it and it was brilliant. He wouldn't get any credit for that because he was building off of Hitchcock, right?
Yeah. So
why? You telling me you can't make another film about a psycho who lives in a rural area? I mean, didn't Tobe Hooper do this and prove that it can be done? Didn't Michigan do this with a film called Psycho this year? I mean, I don't get why everyone's afraid to create new, why we consistently have to go back to things that just have a box office track record, because you're not going to inherit that track record necessarily.
No. I let yourself be inspired, but don't just recreate the same thing over and over. Hey, I'm guilty of it. I had a brief, I don't want to call it career, but I did movies for a while as a writer, producer, and actor, and each one, and I'm guilty of it too. It just became like, we don't know what we're doing. Let's just make a trauma movie and spray blood and come at the screen and people will laugh. So I shouldn't lecture anybody. I wrote MILFs versus Zombies. My name's not on it, but it became something very different and than I initially wrote. But yeah, you're better off thinking outside the box and going for something that nobody's seen before. Nothing's totally original. We're all inspired by something, what we grew up with, but just try and do something different, and embrace different things. Otherwise, I don't know that it's controversial to say everybody loves Halloween. Even that, I'll be honest, I've gotten some people to watch the original Halloween that have no, like, oh, I have to like it bias or anything. And my nephew was bored, hated it. So, if you keep, and again, I love that film, but if you keep doing the same things over and over, eventually nobody's going to care. You got to create that new thing. And there is hope. A24, Hereditary, you mentioned, fantastic film. And whatever you like serious, anybody that asks me, zombie film, that's somewhat original, #alive just came out. You will like that. Anthology, Mortuary Collection, and these are all things just from this year. It's funny because the year didn't start off great. I mean, we had Fantasy Island, we had The Grudge, Boy, that's actually might be the worst. I hated that one.
It's bad, but it feels just like they didn't finish making the movie. That's all. I mean, not the ending. Yeah. The ending is underwritten just like the rest of the movie, but the big problem is that there's just chunks missing out of a lot of part of that movie.
Yeah,
you can clearly see they had.
It was funny when that ended. There was a guy across from me who just sits there for a minute. I could see him like doing this, like, well, that was a piece of shit. He just gets up. There was
He wasn't wrong.
No, he wasn't wrong. Theatrical horror didn't start off so hot, but I mean, we got The Lodge, which I like quite a bit, although I don't know if it's on my top, to be honest, which is weird. I love it, but I don't know if it's going to crack the top 5. And again, just because it's very hard. There's Relic. There's, there's Dark and the Wicked.
Well, Lodge just made my top 5, so I mean, but still, I mean, again, I'm not picking apart anyone's 2020 list unless they feature, if it's all things that I strongly would put in the wrong column, then I probably want to have a conversation with them. I wouldn't challenge their opinion, but I'd be like, we need to sit down because I got to see what you see somehow here.
Yeah.
But there was so much good this year. It wasn't so many years, man. I struggled to come up with 10 that I want on the list. Not because there aren't, obviously I see probably, I don't know, something ridiculous and unfortunate like 50 horror films in a year, right? Not all theatrically, but new horror films from that year. And a lot of years, I feel guilty if I put something at number 8 that I didn't fully endorse, And I did not have that problem this year.
No. I mean, this year I'm just like, man, I can't leave this off. I can't leave that off. It's hard. But I like I said, diverse opinions. The Rental was one that I know is on a lot of top lists. I don't get it at all. I didn't
either.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like the acting's fine, but it's not much of a
writing's
film.
Bad. Actually, the film looks good too until it just decides to, we need atmosphere. Where's the fog machine? Which is just lame. But no, I mean, the writing of that film is really lame. It's one of those films that any of the characters can stop the coming problems by just being rational for half a minute. But we have to keep the characters all irrational just because we want to go where we want to go. And kind of hate that. You got to have I don't mind a couple characters being irrational. Listen, I'm a Deep Star 6 fan, right?
Oh yeah.
Miguel Ferrar's got to be Miguel Ferrar in that movie. But there can only be one Miguel Ferrar.
Yeah, I'm due a rewatch. I just got the Blu-ray of that. I need to watch it again.
Finally, in the right ratio aspect.
Yes.
Thank you, Keynote Lover. That film has had the most trouble. I don't know what it is about Cunningham's films, man. Like if it's not called Friday the 13th, like, and even that for the longest time was not presented properly. But if it's not called Friday the 13th, people treat his films like crap when they come to video. New kids used to be able to see it because they ran it full frame. Used to be able to see the towel on Laurie Loddington in the shower. There was boom lights on screen because they didn't. And people used to say, well, see what a shitty filmmaker is. No, if it was framed properly, none of those problems happen.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I just saw that when it came out on Blu-ray for the first time. That's
New Kids Striking Back.
Yeah, Lori Loughlin, the theme park one. Yeah,
I like that movie a lot. Cunningham doesn't like it, but I like it.
It is a very, very 80s movie. It's a lot of fun.
He just said it was too vicious. He wished he hadn't made it as vicious, but the producer kept wanting him. They rented the dog. And the producer wanted as much of the dog in the film as they could get, because that's going to be scary. It's like, and Cunningham's like, I want the kids to be scary.
Yeah. That's a very. I don't know why I missed it. I guess it didn't scream horror to me back in the day for whatever reason, and I mean it's not really, but I just never checked it out. But James Spader, Lori Loughlin. I think that's actually putting some eyes on it again because of her legal thing. But
I don't think she did anything wrong. The school system's so corrupt. Who gives a crap if she paid him off? Like that kid wasn't going to get in. Oh, your rich, famous mom wants you in the school. They didn't need to pay her off. She was getting it anyway. Whatever.
Yeah, so I'll sign some Full House merch for you. Just put her in. But yeah, I mean, Possessor is another one. Kruger, who's on our show, loves Possessor. I don't know what his list is going to be, but I know that's going to be pretty high up there. So,
Brand thing of the year, and I still haven't watched it.
Oh, really?
He gets on me about it. I have it. I'm just.
Have you seen Antiviral, his first film?
I did, and I didn't care for it. And I think that might be. and I really wanted to enjoy it because Cronenberg is actually kind of a drinking game around here. That everyone knows if I go off on a bender about Cronenberg, they're going to hear my spiel about how he's the one guy that didn't descend into crap.
No, he did not have Dracula praying mantis movies or anything,
or Ghosts on Mars or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, Ghost of Mars kind of makes the Argento's Dracula movie. I mean, it's Ghost of Mars is kind of like Citizen Kane compared to that one, but
I agree with that, but not my John Carpenter. There's your hashtag.
Yeah, well, Carpenter the Ward, and I mean, I would also throw out Stuart Gordon though as somebody who is very, and nobody talks about Edmund or Stuck Edmund. He was one. Even his Full Moon stuff. I mean, it was a cut above.
A Full Moon? Hell yes, it was.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, Castle Freak, Pit and the Pendulum. Those are fantastic movies.
Did you see the remake of Castle Freak?
I did. Very different film, but I had a lot of fun with it. I don't want to delve too much into that because there's definite spoilers. But did you see it yet?
I just saw it. It was one of my New Year's Eve watches, and I'm troubled by the movie. As a hardcore Lovecraft fan, I'm troubled by the movie. And I am, by the way, I'm not troubled by like Gordon's Lovecraft films, which obviously take huge liberties with the source material. There's just some things that I thought were like, I guess it's troubling when you try to seem like you know the mythos rather than if you just like, let Dennis Polly write whatever he wants, which was cool. I mean, Dagon is my favorite of his Lovecraft trilogy, and I know that like I'm the only guy who's going to ever say that. But
I love Dagon. I mean, some people, I mean, I'll say this. I've learned to separate Lovecraft in literature from Lovecraft in movies.
How much choice do you?
Yeah. But there's a lot of people, because of Stuart Gordon, that was their first introduction to Lovecraft. So, they're different, but hey, that's great. A lot of people, although Lovecraft's been looked at quite negatively with the new show recently, but fair. It's all fair. I mean,
it's fair. It just doesn't perhaps have perspective, but when you should have, if you would have seen my face as soon as they referred to the castle as Whately Manor, I was like, no. You're adapting the wrong story now. Stop. That's only a spoiler if you know Lovecraft well, and if you know Lovecraft well, that wasn't a spoiler. That's the irony, right?
Yeah.
I don't regret it being made, but I do think the original is a way better film. And I'm not a big fan of the original Castle Freak. I like it. I don't love it.
I think it was different, though. I didn't feel like I was watching the same film, which is always a plus. And there are certainly some very strong moments in this. Again, I don't want to give away the end, but it felt like a hard R-rated horror film, if nothing else, with all the sex and gore.
There is monster vagina in that movie.
There is, yes. That sex scene was pretty disgusting and hilarious at the same time. so yeah, I had a good time with it.
So, looking forward, I know we're not talking about release schedules because obviously there are no such things right now.
Yeah.
But what are your hopes? Like, what do you hope this year is besides just as good as last year, which I mean might be too high of a task. Let's hope not. But what do you hope? What are the trends that you want to see continue? What do you hope happens this year to really put us in when we meet next year, this week, and we're talking about the year, what do you hope to be saying?
Well, in general, not that it was new, but moving forward with streaming and that is what it is. I hope Shudder continues to rise because I think they really came into their own this year. Anything that aired on Shudder, people are talking about Lou's Flower of Evil. That it's been on DVD, but nobody had heard of that before. I hope that trend continues. Maybe Shudder, being as popular as it is, will continue to highlight foreign films and May the Devil Take You To. We'd mentioned that would probably never watch it otherwise. And I hope people keep going outside the box. It's a strange world, so tell strange stories. And 2021 might be a little too well. Shit, we've already had Host, so we've already had pandemic movies. But I do feel maybe 2021's a little soon, but we'll get that next great horror film that takes place during this this period in history that's so so unique. We've all survived it. It's not over yet, but I mean, we've survived it, and I'm looking forward to seeing something that fully encapsulates this insane year. And yeah, but other than that, just quality. Keep churning out the quality, and hopefully the bad shadow in the cloud. At least the bad will be entertaining too, which it kind of has been this year. So
yeah. I mean, my hope is simply the same hope as every year, really. But I feel this year like a better chance to get it than most, having come from a year that I didn't have much hope for. Like, again, as you said earlier, the first quarter of the year, I was like, oh, this year is looking bleak. And that was before the pandemic. It was just like everything was redundant. Another Grudge film, which brought nothing to the table. We're gonna retell Turning of the Screw for an audience that has no awareness, and we're gonna tell it as poorly as possible. And then we turned, no pun intended, not with that film. We turned with Lodge. I feel like Lodge. I went in saying it's Hammer, but it's new Hammer. Who knows, right? I mean, I like their Women in Black films, but who knows? And I walked out going, damn.
And a great performance, even in I've heard you talk about Invisible Man, which I know that's one that was everybody loved it, and then a little bit of more picking at it nowadays, but you get a lot from a great performance. I mean,
that movie would not have the reputation without that performance.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It would just be forgotten by now if Elizabeth Moss weren't so good. And Riley Keough and The Lodge, she's amazing. I mean, put her in everything. I think the genre's alive and well. I would say to anybody listening, champion the new stuff that's really good, because not enough people do it. I mean, Relic, definitely one of the best of the year. I don't want that to just disappear, which if you look at all the great horror films in the last 20 years, May is one. It has its fans, but
it talks about nearly enough.
Yeah, it's not like a Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, that's been around a little longer, but still, it's going to be forgotten if people don't really throw it out there. And I would also, very different film, but Angela Bettis does have a new one called 12 Hour Shift. More of a gory, dark comedy, but she's amazing. I don't know why she's not in way more horror films.
Well, you said Bride of Frankenstein remake, something like her needs to be considered rather than, whatever Hollywood ingenue they go with.
Yeah.
I mean, you need someone on page.
Yeah.
You need someone on page with the writing. So, I mean, if I was in Universal Studios and I was looking for someone to write the new Bride of Frankenstein, first thing I'd ask is, what does the first film mean to you? And if they couldn't give me an answer that was at least as strong as how I feel, they wouldn't be making the movie.
Sure.
They'd have no part. Because I can't make that movie. I can't write that screenplay.
That'd be tough. But more Bride, I mean, people forget the Bride wasn't in the first one very often. There are things you could do.
Listen, the monster survived the collapse.
Yeah.
She should too. The fact that she was in none of the further sequels. I'll tell you what I'd rather than a remake? A sequel. Just pick up where where Bride 35 ended.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Started the opening scene in black and white. Then just fade to color with something and just tell your story. But keep it in the time period. I'm not saying go forward to today, because I think that's a mistake. But but you see, if you have to do something, embrace doing it. Don't try and make something cynical and new, and don't add the Marvel touches to it. So no one-liners to absolve all tension. earn your attention and embrace it. Which, if you look again, I think at most of the films that you really love this year, as well as I do, none of them relieve the tension.
No.
Relic does not let you off the hook.
No,
at all.
I think what I loved about Relic so much too is it's such a real thing. I mean, most everybody, if they haven't, will have an ailing family member like that. So I mean, that ending was as powerful as anything I've seen in a long time. And I would say that emotional, like heavily emotional horror films have really hit hard recently. Hereditary, again, Midsummer, which I love. Those types of relations. I've heard a lot of people say you have to be in that kind of relationship to fully appreciate Midsummer, but A24 going forward. Yes, they occasionally get a film that isn't going to connect with you like Hereditary or Midsummer, but they are always doing something different in fabric. Not a lot of people are going to like that, but it's definitely different. You haven't seen it 50 times.
Can't wait for Saint Maud.
Saint Maud, yes. Lucky people in the UK that already got to see it, but
I was so disappointed on a recent stream when I asked someone from the UK, like, "Did you see this?" And he's like, "Nah, I didn't." And I was like,
"Yeah,
dude, I will trade you like our lives. Can we just swap for like a?" But listen, I think that A24 haven't reinvented the wheel. That's the scary thing. They're just doing what everyone should be doing. And that's the scary thing. They're not like, it's not visionary. It's just right.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. I don't know. Like, even when I was a kid, like the superhero stuff everyone's obsessed with, I just never, I don't know. I could never get interested. I do enjoy stuff like Hellboy, flawed heroes, I guess. But I just could never connect with a guy just throwing on a cape and fighting crime as much as I could connect to, and again, strange times make strange fucking movies. Sorry. I guess I can curse. Yeah.
Yeah, I said monster vagina. You're pretty much safe to go no matter what you say.
I'm better than I am on my own show. So
that's okay.
I haven't said
I don't embrace censorship. So
yeah.
Tim has a question that I think I've answered before, but I'm really interested in yours. Sure. Top books you read this year?
Well, Ancestor, I'm finishing it up, but I think that's definitely going to be on the list.
How far are you?
I'm over 200 pages.
It hasn't made the turn yet. Okay.
Yeah, I know something big is coming because from what I've heard about that book. I haven't just been reading new stuff though. I read The Ritual by Adam Neville, which I enjoyed. Now I don't know why I haven't watched the movie because I thought I did, and then I was like, wait, did I see that? And for some reason
it's a solid adaptation. You'll enjoy it.
Okay. Yeah, so I read that. I've been on a Richard Lehman kick, and I've been getting all of his stuff in hardcover. Who doesn't love Richard Lehman when you're growing up?
Teenage girls in trunks don't love Richard Lehman.
Yes, I was gonna say maybe not the most. But yeah, I reread The Cellar, which I'm trying to get everything on hardcover, and good God, is The Cellar expensive?
Is everything available in hardcover though?
I want to say almost everything is.
Did Thunderstorm reissue the majority of it at some point?
I think so. I have about 24 things on hardcover.
Okay.
Now there is some that is like very expensive. Like I said, The Cellar, the Beast House trilogy is very pricey to get that Cemetery. I think Cemetery Dance had put those out. So yeah, I've been revisiting some of that. Trying to think newer stuff. I read sorry, having a brain thing right now. I read Lovecraft Country. Trying to come up though with some more obscure stuff that I've read. Highlight some obscure authors since we've done obscure movies. I'm going to say his name wrong. Tom Piccirilli. Choir of Ill
Children.
Yes.
First
Never read it.
Present tense. Yep.
Yeah. And I'm struggling because it's a really controversial novel, but Savaging the Dark, and I can't remember the author name. God, really twisted little story though. Savaging the Dark is the name, and I can't think of the name.
If I know, I'm blanking, but I don't think I know.
Yeah, it's not a splatter punk novel or anything, but yeah, I could cheat, but I don't want to pull up another tab and knock this down. Savaging the Dark's the name. It's a very like Mary Kay Letourneau is a horror story, basically. Very controversial. And yeah, I'm just making it a point to read more because there's certain things I've missed. I mean, I'm late to the Paul Tremblay train, and I'm just kind of going back, looking at a lot of like top 10 novels like you might have missed sort of YouTube videos, because you do have that period. Like I said, I went through college a little later, so during that period it's like you're cramming your head with so much stuff, it's hard to get in. But I have it's funny, we had talked about Kathy Koja offline. I realized I read The Cipher forever ago, but I haven't read Strange Angels, which I got that, so I'm gonna give that a whirl at some point. She didn't really do a lot of horror novels. I know she went into the young adult field. Yeah, I think I was gonna say 4 or 5 maybe. I don't know if Kink is a horror novel.
It's a hard BDSM novel, but it's
okay.
You can align it to horror if you want.
Kind of, sort of. Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I was getting from that. But yeah, I missed so much, but there's anything you want again in horror. And for anybody listening that thinks reading is boring, I've had a lot of success. Edward Lee, Wrath James White. You will read about shit that you're not going to see on any, even I don't care, even Unearthed Films is not going to be able to get out some of the stuff you will
not
read
without
about.
people going to prison. No
My jaw is on the floor with some of that stuff. So yeah, so hopefully I gave you guys some good stuff that you probably read and want to commit me at this point.
my favorite reads of the year, you guys have heard it before, but Danielle Tressani's Ancestor is the number one read of the year by far. Like that book hit all the areas in my brain I needed it to hit every time I picked up the book. Like, it was euphoric. I actually slowed myself down because I did not want it to end. It was like I got to those 30 pages left in the book and I'm like terrified to read because I don't want it to end. And that's always the sign of a great experience. Silvia Moreno Garcia's Mexican
Gothic. I have it. Yeah.
Unbelievable. It's a book. Again, it's part of the new Gothic tradition. That's a book that has a turn as well, but you won't believe the Cronenbergian body horror that thing that descends into. And yet it's being marketed as literary fiction.
Yeah, it didn't the TV host or something it put that book out, or it's the publisher. I can't remember. There's some funny story with that book, but I hear it hits you like a brick when it turns.
It's like it. Yeah, I mean it's sustained. Once it turns, it sustains the level. It's like Tetsuya, the Iron Man level gross for the last 135 pages or something.
Yeah.
And then Stephen Graham Jones, who you mentioned before, The Only Good Indians is my third favorite of the year. And you could honestly take the second and third place and probably swap them depending on the day. Jones is an eccentric writer, definitely with his own voice. That book is told from the point of view of a Native American who lives on a reservation who would never use the word Native American. And he speaks like a character that grew up with an education inside that society. So it's a fascinating read because you're constantly kind of deciphering it as you go, which is really clever because there's the mystery element that turns into a horror element, but the mystery element has to be deciphered as well. So he kind of primes you just with his language to follow the novel in the right way. And it's an amazing achievement. So yeah, I think all three of those are classic horror novels, like honestly for the ages. And we got
Mhm.
three of them this year. So there was just,
Yeah.
and those novels weren't written this year. So there was just something in the zeitgeist, as horrible as that word is, this year that was going to reinforce horror, I think, for the next 10 years.
The
I think
universe knew we needed it.
I think we're going to look back at 2020 and we're going to be like, yeah, it was such a messed up year, but god damn, it was good for horror.
Yeah. I have Mongrels by Stephen Graham Jones too, which I've heard good things about.
I haven't read that yet. His new one comes out February, I think.
Yeah,
Faithful Chainsaws, something like that.
My heart is a change, something like that. I have it
Yeah.
pre-ordered on Amazon. Yeah,
I think so do I, but I have a lot pre-ordered on Amazon at the moment.
Yeah, I always forget, which kind of kills me because it's like, oh crap, that's like a $200 set. I better make sure I'm didn't order too much this week. But yeah, no, the genre is strong. There's a lot of negativity, but it's strong, guys. There's plenty out there for you to devour. If you like the weird, even something like Swallow, which is kind of borderline horror, but hey, unique and actually like a legit affliction that people have. There's some pretty crazy stuff out there. His House, another good one that anybody can watch. It's on Netflix that mirrors very true to life stuff with refugees. I actually liked Underwater. I know a lot of people hate. That's another one that's on best and worst list, but I had fun.
I don't know if I'd put it on a worst list. I just was underwhelmed by Underwater.
Yeah, I think I was just so excited at the end there where someone pops up. Maybe I enjoyed it more than it really.
I get that from a lot of people. I think it's the inverse of the Aliens effect. Well, the Alien 3 effect, whereas like people get pissed at Alien 3 for killing off characters and will never let it tell its own story. With Underwater, it's like I think everyone had a slog until a certain point, and then something shows up, and they're like, "Oh, I love this movie." It's like, but I don't mean to put your opinion
no
improper context, but
yeah, Rent-A-Pal's one not a lot of people are talking about. That's not for everybody, but I did enjoy that quite a bit. That is a weird movie, and I really dug it. But like I said, I think just a few bad ones. That's it. I mean, there's nothing that I really hated. There's a lot out there. I'm cramming. Like I said, Todd, our producer. I mean, man, that dude has watched everything. So if I can't answer it for you, hit up Todd Loya, because he has seen like everything this year. What's that Amy Schumer movie? He'll know it. What's that zombie movie? He'll know it. So, yeah. And what a great, one of the darkest years that there's been for a lot of people. And that horror is there for us. It's there to comfort us. As shitty as it's been, we have technology, we're connected. I'm in Atlanta right now. You're in Jersey. So keep the community strong, support one another. It's very important because horror is not going anywhere. It's an emotion. It's in our bones. So
it is an array of emotions, to be more particular. Yeah. So, Dan, this is a lot of fun. You got to come back. We got to do this. I don't know, quarterly or something. We got to come together and do a show. Maybe I'll not even refer to you as a guest at a certain point. You'll just be part of the programming. Now, I don't want to steal you from your main crew, but
oh no.
But by the same rate, it's always easy to fall into conversation, and I think you're a cornerstone part of the community that can help a lot of people just find what they love. It's not about what I love or what you love, really. It's about providing that framework for people to go out and find the stuff that they can be passionate about. That's not, again, the same 7 titles that we've all discussed to death. And I think that's something that, I mean, you and I get together within 5 minutes, we're talking about obscurities.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And some of the stuff you've heard tonight, you're not going to like it all, but I guarantee you're going to really love some of it. So.
And you'll forget very little of it, ever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's one thing about this year. That's really amazing. So yeah, no, like I said, guys, make it a point to watch a few new horror films this week. Maybe that's just leave it there that you haven't seen, and if you like them, talk about them. It's yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Dan, for coming on. I have Sarah Tantlinger coming on Monday. If you don't know who she is probably one of the most premier horror poets in the world. She is a award-winning horror poet. She also does write fiction. We haven't had a poet on the show before.
Oh, nice.
So that's it's a corner that I'm going to be extremely. I'm going to have to do some homework on, to be honest, because it might not surprise you to find that I'm not the most adept at poetry of everyone you'll ever meet. But I'm excited, and I hope you'll all join us out there. Also, please, I don't beg of you often for much, but these live shows are a cornerstone of the channel, and it's important to me. We have some exciting guests coming up over the coming 2 months, but I am going to ask you to please spread the word about them, and make sure that if you enjoy the content that you are subscribed and all that. If you're watching on mobile, especially hit the bell, because that's where that works best. It doesn't seem to work so well on anything but mobile. So do that, and my hope is we can grow outward. A lot of great shows from the community have started up in the last year, and that is the biggest win of all. More voices are always going to be better voices. Any final words, Dan?
No. We are Flesh Wound Features on YouTube, so you can catch us there. We're on everything. We're on Blog Talk, which that's where I started. And we are Flesh Wound Radio on Twitter as well. So yeah, check it out. We're getting ready to do our best of 2020 show, and we have that I keep forgetting the name. Shadow in the Cloud review up now as well. That's our most recent thing, which was fun.
All right, everyone, go out and follow Dan's advice. Watch a couple horror movies in the coming couple days, and let us know what you think in the comments below of whatever it is you watched, or if you just want to bitch about me or Dan, do that. All right, be good.
Exposes itself to an assortment of radiation. Some, such as the solar rays, are heaven sent.